This is the Career Foundation's Future at Work podcast and webinar series. Each episode, we explore critical topics affecting the workforce and workplace, with a key focus on new and emerging trends across high-growth industries. Whether we're discussing the skilled trades, youth wellness and education, or supports for persons with disabilities, you'll learn about some great resources to help you, or someone you know, navigate current and future careers. You can visit us at careerfoundation.com to learn about all of our programs and services. Thanks for listening.
I am Whitney Pyper, and I am part of the Career Foundation's Completing the Circle program. And I'm so pleased to have with me today both Teresa, Wile of Native Women's Resource Center in Toronto and Nikki Bomberry of the Hamilton Regional Indian Center. And they're here this morning to discuss a very, very important topic, something that we are really concerned about at the Career Foundation, which is inclusive and welcoming workplaces, greater employment outcomes for Indigenous youth. So before we get really into the meat of our discussion today, I wanted to begin our conversation by acknowledging the land on which we gather, and which the Career Foundation's Completing the Circle program in Mississauga operates, as it is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. For thousands of years, Indigenous peoples inhabited and cared for this land and continue to do so today. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Anishinaabe, the Huron-Wendat, the Haudenosaunee, the Ojibwe Chippewa peoples, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We are grateful to have this opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. So, I also would like to introduce our listeners to our very welcome guests who have joined us for this important discussion. First, we have Teresa Wile from the Native Women's Resource Center of Toronto. Welcome, Teresa. Just a little bit of background about Teresa. Teresa Wile works as the client care support worker for the Native Women's Resource Center of Toronto, and she's been there for about a year. She is the first line of contact for Indigenous women and their families coming to the center seeking support. She helps create a safe and welcoming space where her clients can exchange resources and also practice their traditional ways. Clients are provided with services to address their basic needs, such as housing, advocacy, employment, and education. The principles of the 7 sacred teachings of wisdom, love, respect, bravery, honesty, humility, and truth are reflected in all the activities that are done at the center to build the confidence and capacity within the collective community. She hails from Northwestern BC and is part of the Haida peoples. Thank you, Teresa. We also have Nikki Bomberry, the Hamilton Regional Indian Center's representative, and she is the Healing and Wellness Coordinator. This position's mandate is the prevention of family violence and the promotion of healthy lifestyles through culture-based programming. Nikki has been with HRIC for a total of 16 years. She first worked here as a Healthy Babies, Healthy Children worker. Then she left HRIC to go back to university and returned this time in the Healing and Wellness program. Nikki lives in a multi-generational home with her parents and her teenage twin nieces and nephew. She is from 6 nations of the Grand River, Seneca Nation, and is of the Turtle Clan. Welcome. And I guess I have to say a little bit more about me. I'm the manager of the Career Foundation's Completing the Circle program. This is a program that's funded by Canada and whose goal is to help connect youth ages 15 to 30 to employment through 5 weeks of paid training, 12 weeks of paid placement, And then we are really striving to create safe and welcoming spaces for all our participants. And with the support of our partners, such as our two guests today, we have offered culturally inclusive programming and support. So with all that, let us begin. So Teresa, if you don't mind, I'll start with you. The Native Women's Resource Center of Toronto has been an amazing partner to the Career Foundation, supporting our many services. Perhaps you can tell us a little about the center and how you support the needs of young women who access services that are looking to re-enter the workforce. Thank you.
Well, from everybody who comes to the center is on their own healing journey, and everybody's at a different point on which part of healing that they're doing. Some people are homeless and they just want a hot meal. We offer hot meals. Staff take turns handing out lunches at the door. It gives all the staff members a chance to get to know the community that we're serving.
Yeah.
We have our education program, community wellness, which focuses a lot on the spiritual aspect. The IWF, the Investing in Women's Future. It's a really great program. It's if you're not ready to go to work, but you want to get ready to start working, we have she runs a lot of empowerment programs, art therapy, healing circles. And when somebody's ready, maybe somebody just wants help with their resume. She helps with resumes. Maybe you need your status card. She helps get people their ID and create bonds with different employers as well, and making partnerships like with the Career Foundation.
Yes. Yes, we so value the work you do. And I love how multifaceted it is, and it really addresses many needs at the same time, not only employment, but wellness and well-being and health, and even art therapy. Like, we're doing art as a way to express oneself is such a beautiful complement to creating the whole person, addressing the whole person and not just one piece of them. So I really love that about your center. Thank you so much. Nikki, we have recommended the Hamilton Regional Indian Center's programming to many of our clients, and they have found it a very helpful resource in their journey to find employment. Maybe you can tell us about the Indigenous Youth Wellness Program that you run. What outcomes wellness has led to the program participants, and how the program aligns with the needs of youth, the youth you encounter in your work.
I think it's easy to kind of get stuck in my role in healing and wellness, but I think in terms of the whole agency, so we have over like 25 programs, I think, at the center. So we basically say we have programming from cradle to grave. So I have everything from prenatal to, we've actually had funerals here and wakes here at the center. So we kind of, again, like what Teresa said, we meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of youth and employment, we service anyone who walks through the door. So it could be, maybe their, custodial parent or caregiver is not Indigenous, but they are, and their caregivers need help, or their partner's Indigenous, or their children are Indigenous. So that we offer service to everyone in kind of any situation, right? We're also status blind. There's, I think, maybe two programs that kind of are specific to if you have status. And one of them was, if we refer anyone to the Grand River Employment Training, they have to be a Six Nations band member. And then there's some housing programs in the city that require that you have status. But I think for the youth, I think they see that when they come in, we will try real hard to remove any barriers they have to education or training and employment, right? So it could be, I can't get to school. I don't like going to school. We've had teachers that are like, okay, I'll come and get you. Like,
Right.
because we have an alternative high school here as well, right?
Wow.
And something just as simple as offering bus tickets. We really try to, we will get you there.
Yes.
If this is what you really want, we will get you there. And they might not even be anywhere close to that. It might be, I'm hungry. I don't have anywhere to go. Like those simple basic needs. Sometimes we got to start there. So again, it's kind of the same thing Teresa said. We just try and help where they're at and give them help lift them up, kind of. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's the key to, it's probably the common denominator between our three services is we're very similarly focused. I mean, just recently we rented a job search van to actually pick up youth and take them to interviews. Because sometimes it needs not just the bus fare, but we sometimes you just need someone to take you and ease your mind as you're going to the interview and put you calm, and then someone to celebrate when you come out after a really good performance in the interview. So I feel an alignment just talking to you, Teresa and Nikki, of that whole idea of it's not just someone coming and getting a job, it's really taking care of the whole person. And meeting them where they are and providing what they need in the moment to get them to the next step. So I love that about both of your programs.
I think sometimes too, it's something even as simple as if you say hi to them walking through the lobby. They might not even be your client, but you're like, hi, how's it going? How are you? You know, do you need anything? Did somebody see you? Are you waiting for, you know what I mean? Like, and when everybody does that, then you're like, oh, okay, I want to come back here, right? Like it's just really simple human stuff that a lot of people are missing, unfortunately.
I'm going to go off a little bit based on what you said, Nikki. You inspired me. So I started thinking, how has the pandemic really impacted our service delivery and our values as organizations who really want to do more than just provide a service? We want to provide a service that has meaning and that really helps the clients. And have you seen a difference like during the pandemic and post-pandemic and your ability to deliver that sort of personal touch?
Well, for us, we actually doubled our staff size over the pandemic, which is kind of not the norm for most places of work. And part of that was we really, we actually got a lot of housing. Sorry, that's how it goes. We got a lot of housing dollars, and we actually now have a housing unit. But how we changed over the pandemic was that we really had to look at how are we still going to provide programming to everyone when we can't see them face to face. So it was things like, so like for our elders and our congregate dining that they have, we changed it to, we will deliver you a meal every Wednesday. And then it became, then we had a food bank, and then it became, oh, well, we'll deliver your food hampers to you so that you don't need to come out here. And then we went online. And that was a huge change. All of us had to kind of, because we're used to in-person programming, so that it became, okay, how do we get all of these programs? How many Facebook how many Facebook accounts do we need to do this? Then we actually also started telephone program called Senior Centers Without Walls, because a lot of seniors don't do social media. So they were still able to get programming and one-on-one. And then we also had every worker had their client list, and we called them once a week just to be like, how are you doing? How is the pandemic affecting you? Do you need anything? Is there anything do you think we can do better? So it's my manager. So we really had to rethink and be creative, and how are we going to still service people, because shutting down wasn't an option for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Teresa, did you feel similarly during this time?
I wasn't here during that
Oh,
time,
okay.
but I've heard many stories.
Yeah.
We did the same thing. We pivoted online, delivered groceries. I heard that our average was about 30 to 40 women a week we would help with the food bank pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Our numbers are up to like 80, 90, almost 100 a week.
Wow.
And like today, like,
Yeah.
so it's become a lot. The grocery support is like our main focus at the, at the center for 2
Yeah.
days of the week, 1 day prep, every Friday, grocery support. It's we're back to doing it in person, but it's kind of come in, everything's in the basket and you go.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, we had to pivot as well, and I'm feeling like we want to do more in-person service, but people have liked more remote and more us coming to them, and so we have that piece that's still at play. Are you finding your clients are similar, or are they wanting to come back to the centers?
They're wanting to come back to the center now.
Yeah, that's good.
We still have a few things that are done over Zoom or remote, but yeah, a lot of the clients are happy to be back in the center.
Yeah.
It gets a little crazy sometimes, but like like forgetting, like, oh yeah, it's Tuesday, there's sewing program, we need to make extra lunch because
Yes.
there's going to be a lot of women in the building today.
Yeah. So both of your programs support employment directly or even indirectly. In your opinion, how can the workplaces that you help your clients connect with, become more positive spaces for Indigenous youth specifically, but all Indigenous people? And what would you want to share, like young people who want to share their skills and talents, what might prevent them from accessing certain job opportunities?
Well, after the pandemic, like, it's like, a lot of people suffered with mental health issues throughout that pandemic.
Yeah.
Morning check-in, Friday check-ins, mental health check-ins. Like, the youth need that, like even throughout schooling, having everything online, like, they want a safe place to
Yeah.
smudge and pray. They want um, acknowledgement of what they're doing and how, like, whether it's constructive criticism or, hey, you did a great job today, or hey, great hair, like,
Yeah, it's simple stuff. Yeah, that we take for granted, but it means so much, right? How about you, Nikki? Any thoughts on how workplaces can be more positive spaces for Indigenous youth?
Kind of the same things as Teresa's saying, and I think they need to see themselves in their workplace, whether
Yeah.
that be, like a very not simple thing, but just kind of, okay, so September 30th is in a
Yes.
couple days. If your workplace is like, hey guys, we're gonna get you all orange shirts so you can wear that because Nikki works for us and we want to support her culture and her people, and that we believe in kind of what this stands for, and not just orange shirt day, but like wear your orange shirt every day,
Yeah.
and kind of in a metaphorical sense, right? Because a lot of times you can take your shirt off, but we can't, right? It is exhausting to be an Indigenous person, because you're constantly the expert, and sometimes they're not, right? A lot of Indigenous youth are trying to find who they are. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes they don't even know what nation they're from. They just happen to find out either from, their children's aid records or a parent. They find out, and then it's, who am I, right? And I think that's a big one for us, is identity.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes they don't know, right?
Right.
So even to say, like, what do they need? They don't know, right? And so sometimes it's when a workplace is Indigenous friendly, then they're more likely to be like, oh, like, that's me, right? Even though they might not know a whole lot, they're like, okay, I can be here, right? It's really about feeling seen, right? Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to ask, in my work, I've noticed that when I've worked with some youth who have Indigenous roots, they may not even know what that means. They just know that their grandma or their grandfather, they heard through the grapevine, was Indigenous. So it's been really rewarding for me to offer programs such as yours, or resources such as your organizations, as an option for them if they choose to go on that journey of discovery of if they want to, of their past. And for me, that feels like a good outcome of the work I do that isn't directly part of the work I do, but is a beautiful sort of complement to it. Is I was reintroducing individuals to potential connections that they may have lost. So that's really important to me too. And I like your point that we really have to treat everybody as just individuals, just like everyone. Like, what do you need as an indigenous individual, not as a group of people? Because it's all of us are individuals with our own unique needs, and we're at different stages of how we understand our background, for instance. So that's amazing. Yeah, you've given me something to really think about. What I've also noticed in my work is that some Indigenous youth don't feel comfortable working outside of Indigenous community organizations. They really want to work within the community for various reasons, because they have a passion for towards healing and making things better, but also it's a safer space. Is there anything you'd like to say about that, to sort of make us understand why someone may choose to do that, and how we can make other work options attractive to young people?
That's a good question. Because I'm one of those people.
Okay.
The option to work outside of an Indigenous community, that's not what I was going to do. And I think it was because when I went back to university when I was 30,
Yes.
because I wasn't successful right out of high school. I had my own issues, right? So it was having to deal with those issues. And then once I realized what I wanted to do and what I was good at, I just needed the paper to say, hey, I can do this job.
Yes.
It was, at that time, it was, our youth go away to school, don't come back.
Right.
And so there was a kind of a big push, this is like 15 years ago, that how do we get them to go to school, but come back and help our own people, right? So sometimes it's just we know what we need to do to help each other, and we don't necessarily require anyone to tell us how to do that, right? So sometimes that's the reason, because it's easy to work somewhere where the people you work with have the same worldview as you,
Yes.
right? So a lot of that, when you talk about non-Indigenous agencies, is, do they have knowledge of our history?
Yes.
And like the true history, because it's really easy to kind of have a one size fits all when there's like 400 different nations in Canada. So like what I know and what Teresa knows are two complete, like Haida and Haudenosaunee are like not only opposite ends of the country, but completely different nations, just like, you know, the US and Mexico. They're two different things. Me and Teresa are from two different nations, right?
Yeah.
But often we're treated as the same, right?
Yeah.
We might share the same worldview, but our specific histories are different. But they're so I think knowing our history is a really big deal, and knowing true history, not kind of like, you know, the rainbows and puppies version that you're taught in school. But the like, it really wasn't cool to be Native, and that I right now we're cool, quotations, right? And that's, you know, when they found those babies at residential school, it kind of jumpstart this, holy smokes, maybe we need to listen to what's happening to Indigenous people, right? And Indigenous communities have to kind of jump on it, because there's going to come a time when we're not cool, and it's going to be really hard fight to kind of get things done in our communities, right? That's the reality of what I've seen, you know, in my life. So it's, I could go on and on. I'll let Teresa talk.
Teresa, anything you'd like to add to Nikki?
I completely agree with what Nikki said, and like even like, you know, nobody knows what everybody's story is. Like me, my mom was part of the 60s scoop. She was taken away when she was 10 days old, just because her mom had enough kids, the government felt. So they took her. So my mom grew up without traditions. So like I like working for an Indigenous organization personally, just because I, like Nikki said, I like, you know, the people I work with, we share the same core values. Even the people that are non-Indigenous that work here, they work here because they want to work here. They want to be part of the community. And they like, you know, they know the truth, and they want the truth to be spread. They want to help the community. It's their way of reconciliation. And like me, I'm not super traditional, but like I want to be, right? But like, you know, those things were taken away from my family, and it affects my family. It affects my children. But at the same time, like, you know, like me as an individual, I find that I have the power to bring back the traditions, even though I don't know my traditions in BC, because I've grown up in Ontario. Like, you know, I follow Anishinaabe traditions, and I listen to Anishinaabe healers, and like, you know, and that's where it feels good. When I come to work, I don't have to hide who I am. Whereas in the past, when I've worked for non-Indigenous organizations, I felt like I'd have to hide who I was, because there would be judgment, there would be assumptions, like, you know, like, oh, she's late. Oh, I wonder why she's late. What was she doing last night, right? Like, you know, nobody really wants to, like, you know, and like Nikki said, right now we're trendy, we're trending right now. So like, you know, but I think we have to jump on it, because, you know, people want to know the truth, and if they're listening, they haven't been listening for a long time. Right now the world is listening, and the world does need to know the truth.
They do, absolutely do. I was lucky when I was a young girl. My mom took me on the Polar Bear Express up to Moosonee. because she wanted me to know what it meant to be Canadian was beyond just what I was learning in school. So we went up, and I learned a lot from that trip. I have still so much to learn and understand, and so I'm really grateful to you both for spending time with me. I feel like every conversation I have with each individual, I become a better person because I learn different perspectives and different ways of looking at the world. And I'm very grateful that I had that early teaching from my mom as an ally. I like to become a better ally, and I definitely want our organization to help you in this step forward. I mean, our workshops now incorporate the teachings of two Indigenous people who share their story with our young people. There's a session we do called I Am Indigenous, where the history is shared with all Canadian youth that come through our program, because that's our goal, is to create safer spaces in workplaces to have other people understand the history and be welcoming and not do what you were saying, Teresa. I think that's horrible. Everybody's late to work once in a while, but yeah, there's an added stigma on it because of your background. They may attach something to it, but they shouldn't. There's no attachment. We're all late to work once, at least,
Yeah.
or sometimes
I
even
don't know,
4
like
times.
education. I think education is the best way, like, for
Yeah,
reconciliation is like, even the companies that are taking time off, like they've made it a federal holiday.
yeah,
That's good and all, but like, is it just a day off to those workers? Or like, it should be time to learn. Take that
absolutely.
time off to educate yourself.
So this is perfect,
Go to a community event, buy an orange t-shirt,
right?
understand, listen to the survivors.
Yeah. So this goes right into what I was about to ask you guys. With the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation happening later this week, because we're recording in advance of that, we would love to hear your thoughts on reconciliation in the future. You've talked about it a little bit already. We don't want it to be just a trendy, famous topic right now. We want it to become something that we keep in mind always. It's very important. But maybe you can tell us your thoughts on the future of reconciliation and how it's shaping the future for Indigenous youth. What message would you like to share with them at this point?
Do you want me to go first, Nikki?
Sure.
Whichever.
I know. I was like, who's gonna go?
Okay. um the message I would like to share with our youth is that it's okay to be who you are. And as you get older, you need to understand that it is your own responsibility, just like it's my responsibility to hold myself accountable for my actions and the actions of others I that that I interact with. We all have to take accountability for our actions, um, and that it's okay to be who you are. Like, what's happened in the past is in the past. There's lots of healing out there. There's lots of help out there, and yeah, moving forward, grow your hair, bead those earrings, rock that ribbon skirt or shirt, drum, dance, be who you are, love who you are.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just to go off that, I think I would want our youth to know, ooh, it's kind of got emotional. Somebody's there for you.
Yeah.
Like, we want you to succeed. Like, it's okay to reach out. Like, and reaching out can mean different things, even if it's just hanging out here for the afternoon, or it doesn't necessarily have to be, join this program or talk to this counselor. It could be come in for lunch one day,
Yeah.
right? But there's people there with you, for you, and we want you to succeed. And also,
Okay.
sorry, our announcements went off. And I lost my train of thought. So somebody's there for you, and
That they don't really have to do anything is what I'm getting from what you're saying, Nikki, that just being there, they don't have to join a program like you're saying. They don't have to speak to someone. They don't have to tell their whole story. They can just be somewhere that feels good around people.
They can just be and kind of just say all those things Teresa said.
Yeah.
And to I think when you talk in terms of our history, is there was a deliberate attempt to get rid of us, right? Yeah. And a deliberate attempt to put our people in a spot where we don't succeed. Yeah. And so I want our youth to know, this is how I say it, don't be that Indian they want to portray you as. Mm-hmm. And don't be proud, because the fact that we're still here is that they need to know how incredibly beautiful and resilient our people are. And I think, to me, that's the biggest message, is regardless of if what you know in terms of tradition or anything, is that our people are amazing, right? And we're lucky right now to be able to show the world that beauty, right? Yes.
Well, I just have to say, on a personal note, I'm so grateful to that this is finally coming to light, because it's been part of my growing up to acknowledge and be respectful of the history. So I feel like I don't have the whole truth, but I did get pieces of it growing up, because my mom made sure I understood the true history of Canada. But I'm it's only a little piece, and I welcome the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, and I want to wear my orange shirt in my heart every day. And I'm so grateful that you spent this time with me today. I want to be an ally. I want to be a better ally. And each of these conversations helps me. So thank you. Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for sharing. And if there's anything else you want to add, I open the floor.
Oh, thank you for having us, Whitney.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. We have an event coming up in Hamilton starting tomorrow. So the 29th, 30th, and 1st. It's called Raising Up Our Children. So it's our Truth and Reconciliation event at Gage Park near the band shell. So if you're from Hamilton, you kind of know what that section of Gage Park is. So we're having a community social on Thursday. Friday, we're having different survivors speak. And we have like community vendors, community agencies, food, obviously. And then Saturday, we have a whole day of Indigenous entertainment. So if you're in Hamilton, come on out. It'll be a good time. I'll be there. Find me, say hi.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. How about you, Teresa?
Well, we're not doing anything too big for Friday. It is our grocery support day, but we will be having a drum making for seniors and or / survivors, and a traditional feast for them. But we are having a big event on October 4th. We're having the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Sisters in Spirit Vigil, and that'll be starting at 10 a.m. and it goes all the way till 7 p.m. There'll be a ribbon skirt fashion show. There'll be activities, candle jar making. I can't remember how many other things. We have a whole bunch of things. We have poster making, everything. That's October 4th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Sounds
in
wonderful.
Allen Gardens.
A ribbon skirt fashion show. That's an amazing idea.
Right? Well, I want to clear my calendar and come to Hamilton, and I might see you, Teresa. I might be able to come on the 4th. That sounds great. I remember when the news stories were happening all the time on the news, and as a young child, I didn't understand why they weren't looking for these women. Like a young person, I would cry because I didn't understand why they weren't helping I remember as a child feeling that way. So definitely I would want to go and pay tribute to the women that
It's
yeah.
very interesting too. It's kind of, now we're on a missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Yeah.
It's interesting too, because another thing you can do is like Native Twitter, Native Facebook, Native TikTok is a thing.
Yeah.
Join those networks, because that's where you get a lot of the real news.
Yeah.
And when you kind of go on there, you can see those stories are still happening. Those women are still going missing. It's
Yes.
just not on the news.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I didn't understand, because when I grew up, we had missing children. We had children that went missing. And I remember as a young child, them being all over the news. And then I would hear about these other children or these other women that would go missing and nothing would happen. And we wouldn't hear about, you'd hear a little piece and then nothing. And I remember asking my mom, like, what's happening? I don't understand. So I think as part of Truth and Reconciliation, there's a lot of focus on the missing children, which there should be. It was devastating to hear that news. Even as an ally, I'm sure it's even more difficult for the people more directly affected by it. But definitely the missing and murdered Indigenous women is just as important of a problem that needs to be addressed urgently. I agree with you.
I
And
think to
yeah.
end on a positive note, if you
Yes.
also join those social medias, we're very funny.
You are.
So you'll also get a good laugh out of a lot of those things.
There's this one I watch where it's out of the States, but there's jingle dress dancers who, like, with the bells. I don't know if I'm saying it properly, but they will watch videos of Native Indigenous people produce videos, and then they'll comment on them. And it's so funny. Like, some of the jokes are definitely, like, I missed the punchline because maybe I'm not really in the culture, so I'm like, what? I don't get it. But a lot of it is quite funny. And I do follow on my Facebook a lot of different organizations just because I have a personal interest. And what I have to say as an ally is I've never been not welcomed to any event, any gathering. I feel like I'm part of the family when I'm there. And I've never been turned away or made to feel like silly for showing up. So I want to do that too in my work. I want to create a space that makes others feel, just no matter where they're coming from, no matter what their background, they come to our space and they feel welcome. So thank you for this conversation. I can always do better, and I will always strive to do better. And I really appreciate you both and value what you're doing in your work. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the opportunity to discuss it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Career Foundation's Future at Work podcast and web series. To learn more about our workforce development initiatives, visit our website at www.careerfoundation.com and follow us on social media. To listen to our previous episodes, subscribe to the Future at Work podcast on iTunes or Spotify.